Hello, and welcome to my blog. This week I've been watching kitchen sink dramas, which is why I'm sounding more northern. Usually set in the north of England after the war, these films attempt to show a more realistic version of the working class. Without further ado, then, Look Back in Anger follows Richard Burton as Jimmy, a market stall sweet seller who hates his wife. He abuses her mentally and on occasion physically. He's a horrible character, but he lives with her and a lodger who helps him man the sweet stall. When she gets pregnant and invites a friend to stay, Jimmy's behaviour worsens enough to send her running back to her middle class parents. As I've mentioned, Jimmy is so unlikable, his character is hard to feel sorry for. His aspirations of trumpeteering with a penchant for jazz music try to excuse his behaviour as a reaction to disappointment, but it doesn't quite gel with the audience. We find some of the characters slightly too unbelievable, and their reactions are unlike the rest of the genre's realism. The film is enjoyable, but I'm glad it didn't end with a kiss. Look Back in Anger was directed by Tony Richardson, who seems to be a staple of the genre. He also directed A Taste of Honey, which I much preferred, not least of which is because it's set in my hometown of Salford. In this film, a sulky teenager falls in love with a black sailor and becomes pregnant after leaving school. When her mother seems to abandon her for a new husband, she moves into a rented room with a young gay man who's been thrown out by his landlady after she finds out about his sexuality. This isn't the last film this week that I'll review where the option to abort the child is touched upon. Joe is believable and excellently played by Rita Tushingham. All the characters here are good, and I think a great sequel series of a drama comedy could be made with all the characters. It's dark in places, but never bleak, and whilst the locations aren't a pretty sight, they're framed in a way that doesn't show the city as a personality-less metropolis. Even the characters are superbly portrayed, and their goals and actions are understood and empathised with. I really don't think this film hits a sour note. Whilst its subject matter isn't for everyone with its lack of a proper happy ending, I'm looking at you, Dad, I do think that this is one of the genre's best. In The Entertainer, in a small seaside town, Laurence Olivier plays a vaudeville showman trying to make a living from a dwindling audience as he deals with family strife. His son has been taken prisoner at war, his current wife is an alcoholic, and his father, himself an entertainer, gathers a bigger crowd than he does. He has it tough, but when he gets picked to judge the Miss Great Britain pageant, his luck begins to change. It's interesting as a Laurence Olivier film, as his name is spelt incorrectly on the end credits. I enjoyed it, but felt it was more of a seaside rip-off of the Charlie Chaplin limelight 8 years before, with a less likeable lead character. The supporting cast are also very good, and Olivier finds himself very able to play a down-on-his-luck performer, even though he's at the top of his game. This film is often cited as the greatest of British films and one of the most important of the kitchen sink dramas. Saturday night and Sunday morning has been on my watch list forever, basically. Unlike the last three films I've just reviewed, it's not directed by Tony Richardson, it's just produced by him instead. Albert Finney plays a factory worker living for the weekend, has an affair with a married woman, whilst falling in love with another woman. It's the third film to mention abortion as a theme or suggestion. Throughout the 60s, adultery and premarital sex seem to be both the biggest problem and leading cause of unwanted pregnancy among the working classes. The film is excellent, entertaining, and grounded in reality. Finney really encapsulates what it's like to just be, without much of a job prospect other than going out, getting drunk, and doing the same with the next week's wages. I loved it. There is always room at the top, or so believes Joe Lampton. Back from being a prisoner of war in World War II, another prisoner of war, the film follows Joe as he moves from being a big fish in a small pond to the big city, where he gets a job at the town hall. Whilst there, he joins an amateur dramatic society, where the local big business owner's daughter shines. Joe takes a fancy for her, but he soon gets out of his depth. The film features surprise, another affair with a married woman, and the characters, and the scenery, are all grey, in more ways than one. Jack Clayton directs this film, which starts off really well. As the scene is set, we take the time to get to know Joe and his animosity towards a fellow squaddie, Jack. We see the rife differences between how the other soldier is treated as a member of the more elite middle class. There's a particular scene I love where Joe tries to meet his beau's parents at a fancy dinner. It's tense and the way they deal with him is downright cruel, but very, very cleverly done. Worth watching just for this scene, but sadly the last 40 minutes or so drags. Still a great movie and a great turn by Simone Signoret as the ageing married woman trying to rekindle her burgeoning youth and sexuality. Tom Courtenay plays a liar called Billy in the lead role in Billy Liar. It's not as downbeat as your usual kitchen sink drama, but underneath it all, it still bears all the hallmarks. It's a working class job in a funeral director's where the men are cheats and the women fall for their lines. Billy has big dreams. He longs to run away to London to become a scriptwriter, but he's stuck at his mum and dad's with little chance of escaping. He's engaged to 2 women, but whilst in other films this is portrayed negatively, here it's played for laughs, especially when the 2, sharing 1 engagement ring, both try and attend the same dance with young Billy. There are many laughs within the film, so I'd recommend this to those seeking something a little less soul-destroying than the other fare. Sadly, there are no happy endings here, and the latter part of the film bears more trademarks of the genre. A special shout-out must go to the imaginative daydream sequences, which remind me of the stories of Walter Mitty, which edges this into the really liked category of rating. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, send me film recommendations, send me theme recommendations, and I will try and sound a lot more northern in future vlogs and reviews. Up the working class, join a union!